rally. This was a concert where people were singing and dancing and praying. And the mayor is focused on them being a right-wing hate group and celebrating people who came there to stifle their speech, with a little mention toward, well, Antifa infiltrated. 23 people had to be arrested. SPD officers were injured. And he's focused on the Christians. And the media wasn't any better. Oh, I'm used to being horrified by the way the media reports on left-wing violence. This was as bad as I have ever seen it. Couple of the headlines that came out. The Seattle Times one was the worst by far. 23 arrests at heated fascist family values protest in Seattle. So they use a literal quote from Antifa, essentially, that called this a fascist family values protest, and they put it in the headline as if that's what it was. It was a fascist family values protest. Q13, protesters gather to counter anti-LGBTQ plus Mayday USA event at Cal Anderson Park. Excuse me? You mean Antifa comes to disrupt and assault peaceful Christians? Let's see, King 5 News, no shock here. Seattle leaders blasted for permitting religious rally that sparked protests and arrests. As if it's the religious rally that was the problem. And the headline doesn't even differentiate. If you read that headline, you probably think it's the religious people that got arrested or that created a problem. Como News. Mayday USA event at Seattle's Cal Anderson Park sparks arrests and controversy. Who was arrested, Como? Who? It wasn't the Christians. It was Antifa. Have you all lost your minds? Have you lost your freaking minds? And here the news is emboldening the same far-left terrorists who have assaulted these same reporters for years. Como reporters, King reporters, Fox 13 reporters, Seattle Times reporters, all of those newsrooms have had journalists assaulted by Antifa, and they hide it, and they downplay it, and then they provide cover for them. You guys, this is nuts. It got the attention of the White House. So, of course, the Christians are pissed. And I would be too. I need a drink. So Russell Johnson, who is the lead pastor at the Pursuit Northwest Church, he puts out, and he was at the event over the weekend, he puts out a tweet saying it's time for the mayor of Seattle to either apologize or resign. Meet us on the front steps of City Hall this Tuesday. That's today. So they're holding a rally on the steps of City Hall called Rattle in Seattle, 5 p.m. They're calling it a worship protest rally. And they want Mayor Harold to apologize, which he should. He won't, because now he's facing this progressive challenger. So he's worried about that. And now he's trying to appeal to the progressives by vilifying Christians. And look, probably not a bad political strategy in Seattle. There's apparently a good chunk of the electorate here that hates Christians, hates white people, white Christians especially, and hates anyone who dares to speak out against radical gender ideology and the medicalization of children. This is wild stuff. So now, and yeah, I'm worried about it. We're going to speak to Pastor Russell Johnson momentarily to talk about what they're going to do at 5 p.m. And certainly our hope that it can be done peacefully, because we know that their side is going to be peaceful. That's never the concern. The concern is Antifa. So they put out, again, Pastor Johnson puts out this, we're going to have a rally. We want the mayor to apologize or resign. What does the mayor do? Good grief. Instead of saying, hey, that wasn't written well. Of course, you're welcome to peacefully worship in our city. He doubles down. He makes it even worse. Now he says the Christians are attacking him as the mayor because he's black. He tells Cairo 7 News, we will not be intimidated by the kind of fear-mongering or divisiveness inspired by the rally and extreme rhetoric that takes aim at our residents and at Seattle's second black and first biracial mayor. You clown. How am I supposed to host a show called Undivided when you act like such a clown? There's nothing to unite people behind on that. That's just stupid. So because they rightfully point out that you're trying to impede their First Amendment rights, you're blaming them when other people show up to harass them, to assault your police officers. Any flack that you get from that is because you're the city's second black and first biracial mayor. Congratulations. Are you kidding me? What do you say to that? What do you say to that? Well, we wanted to ask Pastor Russell Johnson. So again, he was one of the key participants in the rally over the weekend. He is the lead pastor at the Pursuit Northwest Church. He is going to be hosting what again is they're calling a worship protest rally on the steps of City Hall today at 5 p.m. He joins us today on Undivided. Pastor Russ, welcome to Undivided.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Brandi. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, you're a brave man. What's the hope for this evening?
Yeah, we're rallying Christians and conservatives alike for a show of force on the front steps of Seattle City Hall to send a clear and convincing message to Mayor Bruce Harrell and his political friends that we're not going to tolerate them attacking the church, victim blaming the church, providing cover for their violent leftist friends to attack the church, and then roll over and play dead. He picked the wrong church and the wrong pastor to try to do that too.
What was your reaction to his statement about the events of the weekend?
I mean, I was grabbing dinner after the rally at Cal Anderson Park Saturday evening. And when I saw the mayor's statement, I had to check that it was from a legit Twitter account because I thought it was fake. I mean, that's how shocked I was. You and I wouldn't even be having this conversation if it wasn't for just the political ineptitude of Mayor Harrell and whoever is advising him in this moment. Look, I'm not a complainer. I'm not a victim. I don't have a martyrdom complex. Anytime you do anything that's semi-Christian in the city of Seattle, you get blowback. Okay, fine. But when the mayor's office released that statement, it was such a clear and articulated attack on the religious freedom of people to gather in the public square of civic engagement and exercise their First Amendment rights that I felt like this is what we're doing tonight at 5 p.m. on the steps of City Hall might actually be more important than what we did on Saturday. Because I think the mayor has gotten used to just being able to push people like us around without any type of blowback or drawing a line in the sand saying, hey, listen, what are you doing? We're calling you to account. So when I read that statement, I was shocked. I mean, my background is politics. I was shocked. Who did not read this before it got sent? And then all he had to do was say, hey, look, it's Memorial Day weekend. I had an intern write that. I didn't even read it. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
All he had to do. He doubled down on stupid and came out and said, the reason why we're doing a rally on City Hall steps is because he's biracial. I mean, this is a clown show. They should teach this in Poli-Sci 101 at Evergreen Community College on how to absolutely nuke your public persona and your political career in 24 hours of public statements.
I agree with you. And then you can go hand in hand the way the media covered it. I mean, you guys were called fascists in a headline from the Seattle Times. Como News, Fox 13, people who typically do a better job, their coverage was atrocious when it came to headlines. Are you concerned about, obviously the answer is yes, but given the violence directed at you guys over the weekend, are you concerned about violence this evening?
Yeah, it's always a concern. And unfortunately, in this part of the nation, it's really a sad thing to say, but we've just, I think, grown accustomed to it. At that rally on Saturday, I got like good-hearted, middle-aged and older church people there. We're singing hymns. We're singing worship songs. People are sharing their testimonies about how God changed their life, how they found Christ when they were in prison, how God helped them out of particularly difficult seasons in their life, whatever it may be. And we're getting water balloons filled with urine thrown at us. We're having protesters do lewd sex acts in front of children. And to top it all off, they're physically assaulting, breaking over the police line to physically assault people who like have their eyes closed and hand raised during worship. On top of that, Seattle police officers were hospitalized. We had folks on our end who, if it wasn't for their loyal commitment to the things of God, probably should have been hospitalized and left the event early. 23 of these radical extremists were arrested. I mean, nobody on our side was cited. Nobody on our side was arrested.
Because they didn't do anything, just to be clear, because they didn't do anything illegal or hurt anybody, not because cops were giving them preferential treatment.
Correct. And, I actually heard this phrase used at the rally by one of the police officers. Is the first time that I've heard it used, but it makes sense. They said essentially what these leftists have been able to do is utilize the heckler's veto. Yeah. Which means that they're going to show up and create so much trouble, so much chaos, that it essentially forces the police or the government to shut down your rights to protect these petulant children. In fact, and I don't have this confirmed in writing, but what we heard through official lines of communication was that if we would not cut the event short, that the mayor was going to declare a state of emergency, which would override our permit and forcibly allow him to shut us down.
Wow.
And so it went from like bad to worse. And, we've been on the front lines of things before. We stood up on behalf of Jewish students at the University of Washington. We stood against the pro-Hamas encampments. I say the devil don't care how big your church is as long as you stay inside of it. And so I'm not willing to just host a nice little Sunday service while the city goes to hell. No, we're going to be a voice of truth. Why? Because telling the truth to a culture built on lies is a revolutionary act. And so that's what I signed up for. So again, this isn't about like complaining because somebody said something nasty to us on Twitter. No, people were physically assaulted. And even for that, I was willing to go, you know what? It's par for the course. Until the mayor put out his statement. And I said, oh, so now he's going to gaslight us. He's actually going to tell us it's our fault because we chose Cal Anderson Park. Well, check my Twitter because I released all the receipts today. We didn't choose Cal Anderson Park. City Hall chose Cal Anderson Park. We tried to pull a permit for Pike's Place. Yep. They told us no and said, why don't you do it at Cal Anderson Park instead? So we said, okay, fine. We're just looking for a venue to do it. So he lied about stuff that we got the receipts for. I mean, this has got to be the worst Memorial Day for City Hall that they've ever had.
Yeah. Do you think it was just a kind of incompetent bureaucrat who suggested Cal Anderson Park and that's why you ended up there? Or do you believe it was more nefarious than that they wanted you kind of to set you up for failure?
Normally I wouldn't attribute to malice what could easily be attributed to incompetence. And I do believe that the political leadership of City Hall is incompetent in every sense of the word. However, based on the mayor's public statement and then doubling down on that statement, it really seems to me that there was more than just common bureaucratic incompetence at play. I really think that the mayor and his team knew exactly what would happen if they suggested that we went to Cal Anderson Park. He knew exactly what would happen when violent, out of control extremists that, by the way, he has coddled.
Yeah.
He has tied the hands of the police department, not backed them, understaffed them, undermined them, and then allowed these guys to run rampant in the city. I think they knew exactly what was going to happen. And the mayor and his team thought to themselves, yeah, we got the church over a barrel. We can really stick it to them and make it out like they're the bad guys. And he just frankly messed with the wrong people. Yeah. And I think people are clearly seeing that now. And it's crazy because, look, I'm a pastor. I'm a Christian. My dad was a pastor. I'm a born again evangelical believer. I also happen to be a conservative. I make no apologies for that. But Brandi, I'm telling you, the feedback from people has been insane. I got more emails and texts and DMs from people who are like, I'm atheist. I voted for Kamala Harris. I'm never going to your church. I don't even like you. We're showing up at City Hall to stand with you because how dare this tyrannical mayor trample on the rights of your constitutionally guaranteed freedoms to peacefully assemble without the threat of being violently assaulted. See, I think this is an issue that actually transcends the religious and political membrane. I think it's actually bigger than just, oh, those Christians or those Republicans. I think it's bigger than that because I've gotten more feedback from people who are not even in my camp, who are like, I'm going to stand with you. And that's why I think the mayor is feeling the heat that he is.
Yeah, and I'm one of them. I've said, not that Nicole, it always gives her a cringe. I'm not a particularly religious person, but this to me has nothing to do with religion. We've had this city that has really been held hostage by these far left terrorists. In my estimation, for far too long, and I'm glad someone's standing up to them. Just two quick things I want to end with. The accusation from the gay pride groups or whatever it is that you guys are hateful bigots, that you're anti-LGBTQ, that you hate trans people. Can you respond to those accusations that you're going to stand up there at City Hall and preach hate?
Yeah, I think those accusations are not made in good faith. I think on their face, they're intellectually dishonest. Yeah, of course, we are people of faith. We're people of the Word of God. We believe in traditional marriage. We believe life begins at conception. We believe in biology, which I didn't think would be a controversial thing to say in my lifetime, but apparently it is. But the idea that, somehow we're a backwoods Westboro Baptist, God hates people. We were at Cal Anderson Park giving away free bikes to the kids, free haircuts, face painting, prayer booths. In fact, we got on stage and instructed all of our people before they leave the park, clean up all the trash, even if Antifa was the ones who threw it, because we want to leave places better than we found them. So, the church is not the problem in the city of Seattle. It's the answer to the problems in the city of Seattle. So this narrative of like, we're kind of these extremist, hate groups, whatever. No, we believe in what the Bible teaches. We're unapologetic about that. We're Christians first before we're anything else. But the messages that were shared from the stage on Cal Anderson Park, testimonies from people who have been rescued out of human trafficking, who have been rescued out of Planned Parenthood clinics, who have had their lives turned around, victims of horrific sexual abuse, who had encounters with God, became born again, now find themselves leading healthy, normative lives in church, raising families. This wasn't some sort of hate-filled, if you're not like us, you're against us, you're going to burn in hell. No. This is about the love of God that is able to overcome any type of disqualification or dysfunction by virtue of the human condition that we might struggle with in our lives. And so, this idea of like, we're up there like incendiary and throwing, rhetorical Molotov cocktails and God hates and these type. No, I'm in the people business. I'm in the church business. We're about inviting people in to be transformed by the power and the presence of Jesus Christ. Every saint has a past. Every sinner has a future. That's the way that things are being contextualized. And so, it's like I do evangelism for a living. Like, this is not about a hate thing or whatever, but when people are so wrapped in to a militant leftist narrative and have been given permission and cover by the lead political figure of the largest city in our state to act in whatever way they want, then they think that they can manipulate the narrative. And, Bruce, in his statement, he says, this group is supporting values that are antithetical to the inherent values of Seattle. Okay, well, first off, even if that was true, that's why the Constitution protects your right to say things that the government might disagree with. Number one. Number two, I would really like Mayor Bruce to expound and extol on all of these altruistic values of the city of Seattle. Under his leadership, crime up double digits. Drug death overdose, 89% up. Rape up, assault up, murder up, families fleeing, businesses leaving. Nobody in their right mind even wants to raise a kid in the city or put their kids into public schools. I grew up in the city. I was born in Seattle. I went to public school in Ballard. I'm a Seattle guy. And what militant leftist leadership has done to the Emerald City should be a crime against humanity. So, Mayor Bruce, save me from the preaching. Let me do the preaching. You can do the politicking, which you're not doing a great job at anyways, but don't preach at me, because, maybe Seattle needs to be on a crash collision course with somebody who has some new values, because whatever you've been doing hasn't been going well.
Amen, Pastor. Amen. And just to the extent that you can make any guarantees, what I don't want to see this evening is, I think there's going to be a lot of people there who are going to be first-time protesters, have never been confronted with the tactics of Antifa. And what you see Antifa do is try to sort of elicit a response from people in the crowd. They'll say horrendous things. They'll do horrendous things. So what would your message be to people on our side who are going to be there, who might feel inclined to respond in a way that would be less than ideal?
Yeah, we're not going to tolerate that, because number one, that's not helpful to our narrative. And number two, that's not a good representation of the gospel. I believe in telling the truth. I believe the church is the pillar of truth in society. I believe when the church loses her voice, the world loses its mind. And we are going to speak truth to power on the steps of City Hall. But I will not tolerate any type of tomfoolery, inflamed rhetoric, abusive action from anything that happens on our side. Now, frankly, to be honest, you and me know how this works. Oftentimes what agitators will do is infiltrate, make it look like they're a part of your thing in an effort to try to stir up trouble. So we got security that's going to be working the crowd. We've got Seattle Police Department presence who's going to be working the crowd, doing our best. But one of the first things that I will say from stage as this rally starts is ground rules. Hey, our battle is not against flesh and blood. It's against principalities and powers of darkness. And, if you came to this thing because you just got anger problems and you need to take them out on somebody who disagrees with you, you're actually just as bad as the other side that we're confronting. Yeah. And this is why I think really the nation has galvanized around this, is because of the disparity of what happened on Saturday. This wasn't a scuffle between two opposing protests. This was middle-aged moms and dads coming to a park on a sunny day to worship Jesus and being violently assaulted by people that the mayor of Seattle coddles and protects. And so it doesn't help our message if our side responds in the same manner or in the same spirit. That stuff is just not going to be tolerated. I'm going to communicate that from the jump. Great. I'm going to tell our folks, listen, Seattle Police Department is here. If you get out of line, I'm happy to have them haul your rear away. We're not doing nothing of that nature, because that's not helpful and it's not Christian. And at the end of the day, that's what we are. We are Christ followers, and we intend to represent Christ well at this rally.
Love to hear it. All right, Pastor Russ, we'll see you there.
Hey, appreciate it, Brandi. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, unDivided will be there. I'll be there, standing with the Christians and standing with common sense. It doesn't even matter to me about the message per se, although I agree with a lot of what they have to say about not even traditional family values. Do with your family as you please. But, for some reason in this city, it's totally cool to celebrate non-traditional family values. But the second you celebrate traditional family values, you're a hateful bigot. And the mayor's gonna blame you for people attacking you. It's, again, like an abusive relationship. It's insane. And so I know a ton of people are going to be there, Christians and not. Now, I am glad that we ended with that point, that the very worst thing that could happen this evening is for anyone there with the group he's with and we're with to get violent. And that's what Antifa wants. And they're going to try their hardest to make it happen. They are going to antagonize. The police are there. Let the police do what the police do. So you're there, we're there to peacefully assemble and to make sure that the mayor knows that his response to what happened over the weekend is completely unacceptable. Now, I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't concerned about this evening. Of course I am. The flyers that are going out, again, because a lot of these people that are coming are the Antifa type. And when Riley Gaines was in town, they were posting pictures of rifles, assault weapons, and saying, protect trans kids by any means necessary. This is a violent group of people. Here's what they have planned for a counter protest. So again, the rattle in Seattle that's being held in solidarity with the Christians starts at 5 p.m. on the steps of City Hall, which is the 4th Avenue side. And then the counter protesters are saying Tuesday, religious hate groups are back. So they're having a town hall meeting at 2, a counter protest at 4. At City Hall, they say, when trans rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. So look, I don't care. And over the weekend, there were people who were peacefully gathered in opposition to the religious concert. Kind of a weird thing to do, but okay. I don't care. I don't care if you stand there with your signs and you want to vilify Christians or traditional family values, or you even want to shout really loud and be angry. Cool. First Amendment is great. It allows for you to do that. I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't think the Christians have a problem with that at all. The problem is obviously the violence. There's only one side that's been violent. There's only one side that's proven time and time again that it will force its worldview on all of you through any means necessary. Through intimidation, threats, harassment, and yes, if it comes down to it, violence. So I do believe that they're capable of that.